Good day, folks. Welcome to Andrew's Life. I hope everyone's doing great today. So, uh, there's a lot of you out here in the black community that believe that racism here in the United States is going to be worse under Donald Trump than what it would have been under Harris, than what it might, than what it is right now under Joe Biden. There's been a lot of you on social media that have, and even some of you in real life that I've heard talk about, well, ever since Donald Trump's been elected, you got certain sectors of the white community that might be a bunch of bigots or racists that are coming out the closet with their bigotry. And they're showing their whole entire back into minorities, especially black people, because a lot of you believe that the the fact that Donald Trump won the election that has that has in some way I I don't know what proper word to use, but basically it has emboldened certain people of the white community to treat minorities a certain way, especially black people a certain way. So the question is, as a black person, as a black American, should you fear racism now that Donald Trump won the election? Well, my honest answer to you guys is no. And this is the reason why I say that black people should not fear racism in America. I mean, for starters, uh, there's going to always be racism and bigotry in this country. It's not, and it wouldn't matter who would have won the presidency. Even if Harris would have won the presidency, there still would have been racism in this country. And the people that are so called coming out the closet with their bigotry, honestly, those people would have sold their back into black America. For those who are like that, those individuals would have sold their back into black America. Rather, Trump would have won or Harris would have won. And honestly, uh, black Americans would have been, at some point, a victim of bigotry or racism. Rather, Trump or Harris won. And honestly, I don't think racism in the United States would have been any better under Harris. I personally think under Harris, racism in the United States against black Americans would have been worse. But that's my opinion. And I know a lot of you may disagree, and you got the right to disagree. It is what it is. And I honestly think that as black Americans, uh, rather than focusing on rather the United States is going to be more racist than it was before because Donald Trump won the presidency, I think as black people, we need to put our focus on other stuff. Like we need to focus on. Let me think here. I would say as individuals, we need to focus on improving ourselves. And I'm pretty confident that the majority of us in the black community can think of at least one thing that we can improve on, rather it be our health, rather it be our income, rather it be our lifestyle in general. I'm pretty sure the majority of us can think of at least one thing that we can improve on. And I think rather than putting a whole lot of focus on who's prejudice against black people, rather than putting our focus on, well, when Donald Trump gets into the White House, he's going to pass 2025 and black people are going to be doomed. Now, me personally, I don't fear 2025. I don't think, I just don't fear it. My philosophy is rather, obviously Trump won, but even if Harris would have won, my attitude would have been the same. I would have just simply kept living my life and I would have kept on making the moves necessary to get myself to where I want to be in life. And I think as black Americans, we need to do that. And I also think as black Americans, for those of you that might live in a predominantly black community, if you like where you live, if you like your city, I think a much better use of time and energy and resources would be to think of ways to invest in your community. Like, for an example, if you're not currently a homeowner, whatever steps that you got to take within the law, of course, to become a homeowner, take those steps. Maybe you might have to work a little extra on your job so you can earn a little extra money. Maybe you might have to change your occupation so you can increase your income. Maybe you might have to work overtime or take on an extra job to earn extra money so you can save up for that down payment for your home. And then once you purchase that home, even though most of you are going to sign a 30-year mortgage, it would behoove you to pay off that home in 15 years or less. Some of you might have entrepreneurial acumen about yourself. And I would say for those of you that have that within yourself, you might, I would focus your energy on starting your own business. For those of you that have the ability to start your own business, you got the ability financially, and you got the ability up here as well. For those of you that have that ability, I would put more focus on doing that than worrying about Donald Trump being racist against black people, or worrying about certain sectors of the white community being racist against black people. And yes, I get that a lot of bad things has happened in this country to black people in the hands of certain white folks. I get it. I'm not gonna, I do get it, and but also there's been a lot of bad things that has happened to black people in the hands of other black people. I mean, as black people, we can't be living our life in fear. I mean, honestly, somebody like myself who travels all over the country, who has lived in all different type of communities. I've lived in predominantly black communities. I lived in predominantly white communities. I lived in the city. I lived in suburbs. I lived in rural communities. I even lived out in the country before. And honestly, at any given time, at any given time, something bad could have happened to me. Something bad could have happened to me by a white person. Something bad could have happened to me by another black person. And like when you look at many of your black celebrities, and sadly, some of them, when they go back to where they came from, to where they came from, I would say 9.5 times out of 10, if you hear or you see or you read a news story about your favorite celebrity getting deleted, in most cases, the suspect was most likely a black person. Not a white person, but a black person. Even us everyday people, even us everyday black people like myself. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it is what it is. But the majority of the time, when you hear of a black person getting deleted, they don't, it's not, the suspect in most cases is not going to be white. It's not going to be somebody of any other ethnicity outside of black Americans. In most cases, the suspect is going to be another black American. So, again, and I mentioned this on a previous video that I made a while ago, and I'm going to mention this again. Why is it that we're running around in the black community and we're having all this conversation about this person and that person being racist against black people? We're talking about how Donald Trump, when he gets back in the presidency, he's gonna apparently be racist against black people. But some of the people who actually have a track record of racism against black people, for whatever reason, we seem to gloss completely over those individuals. Like, I'll give you guys an example. I would say in modern times, one of the racist presidents that we had in modern times was President Clinton. How come I don't hear a lot of you in the black community talking about how racist President Clinton was? Even when Hillary Clinton ran against Donald Trump back during 2016, the majority of the black community voted for Hillary, the wife of Clinton, the wife of one of the most racist presidents in modern times. Another politician, another president that's got a lengthy history of actual racism is Joe Biden. Let me give you an example. The 1994 crime bill, which was responsible for locking up tons of black men, separating tons of black men from their families over nonviolent illegal substance offenses. But yet, during 2020, the majority of the black community voted for him. Another person who actually has a history of racism against black Americans and Hispanics, your girl Harris. If you do your research on Harris, on your woman Harris, the so-called black woman, who's not black at all, she's Indian, but if you do your research on Harris, you'll find that there is a man. His first name was Jamal. I forgot his last name, but his first name was Jamal. He was locked up in prison for several years over false allegations, and even after it was found out that he did not commit, he was locked up because apparently he deleted somebody. And then it was found out later that he did not commit that deletion. The person who actually committed that crime, even after they caught that person and that person admitted to doing what he did and they locked that person up, Harris, back when she was a prosecutor in California, still neglected to correct her mistake and free this man. And his first name was Jamal. If you want to do your research on Jamal, go right ahead. And stories will come up. It's on YouTube here. And also, when she was a prosecutor, she had a whole bunch of people, mostly black people, arrested because for one reason or another, their child may have been absent from school. Now, there is a story about this black woman who had a child that was disabled. And what happened was her child, I guess her child had to go to the hospital for, her child had to go to the hospital, so therefore her kid was not at school. Well, when Harris was a prosecutor in California, this woman got arrested and thrown in jail because her child was not at school, even though this woman had documentation that her daughter was in the hospital. This woman still got arrested. She still got thrown in jail. And even to this day, at least according to information that I read, Harris has not even as much extended an apology to this woman. She has not even as much extended an apology to Jamal, the first story that I was talking about a second ago. So I just find it kind of, I don't know what word, for lack of better words, I just find it kind of comical how there's so many people in the black community that want to talk about how racist Donald Trump is and how 2025 is going to do this and that and the third to black people. But the politicians who actually have a history of racism, for whatever reason, the black community tends to gloss over all of it. I don't quite understand that, but I guess it's something I'll never understand. I will say this. Just like, as black people, just like we lived our lives and we did what we had to do to get to where we wanted to get to in life under the Biden and Harris administration, just like black people did what they had to do to get to where we wanted to get to under the Obama and Clinton administration, guess what? As black people, we're going to do the same thing under the Trump administration, just like we did under the last Trump administration from 2017 to 2021. So, black people should not fear racism because, like I said, bad things can happen to black people by other black people. And in fact, bad things happen to black people by other black people more so than in the hands of anybody else. And that's just a fact of the matter. So my attitude is, for those of you that want to talk about white people being racist and that's the reason why Trump shouldn't have won presidency and all this other crap, let's talk about all the shenanigans that go on in the black community. Let's talk about all the crimes that, let's talk about all the victims who are black. And the suspect is also black. So let's not just put all of our focus on bad things happening to black people by people of other ethnicities outside of black people. Let's also have a discussion of bad things happening to black people by other black people. But for whatever reason, there's a lot of us here in the black community that do not want to have that discussion. Again, I have no idea why. Because honestly, at the end of the day, you cannot control the actions of other people. You can only control the actions of yourself. But when it comes time to look at ourselves in the mirror as a community, for whatever reason, we don't seem to want to put the work in and do what's necessary to make our community better. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. I probably made a bunch of you guys mad, but it is what it is. Feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Stay blessed.